Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about habits that shape a life, we often think about the big, glamorous ones. The morning routines we see in glossy magazines, the fitness plans, the curated skincare rituals. But I want to start somewhere far more fundamental. I want to start with discipline, not in the abstract sense, but in the small, unglamorous, daily disciplines that quietly build the bedrock of self-respect. Because here's the true thing: before the world respects you, before a partner respects you, before your friends respect you, you must first respect yourself. And self-respect is not something you simply declare. It is something you prove to yourself every single day. This proof happens in the private moments when no one is watching. It happens when you make your bed, even though you don't feel like it. A seat. It happens when you clean your kitchen before going to bed, not because someone will judge you if you don't, but because you have decided that the environment you live in should reflect the dignity you carry. Discipline is not a prison. It is a declaration of worth. The woman who wakes up and tends to her life is sending herself a very clear message saying, I am worth the effort. And that message accumulates. Over days, months, and years, it becomes the quiet but unshakable foundation of your identity. The danger of neglecting discipline is subtle. It's not that you instantly fall apart. It's that little by little, you start to lose the sense that you are in control of your life. Your space becomes chaotic, your body becomes neglected, your time becomes scattered. And with that, your confidence erodes. You start to feel smaller, more reactive, more dependent on outside validation just to feel okay. This is why something as simple as keeping your word to yourself, whether that's sticking to a morning routine, showing up for your commitments, or maintaining the order of your home, isn't just a matter of being organized. It's a matter of integrity. And integrity, in this context, is not just moral, it's psychological. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, you strengthen the link between who you want to be and how you actually live. Every time you break that promise, you weaken it. That's why women who cultivate daily discipline exude a kind of natural authority. They are not performing for others, they are living in alignment with themselves, and people can sense that. Now, discipline is often misunderstood. People think it's about punishment or deprivation, but it's not about making your life smaller, it's about making your life stronger. When you impose order on yourself, you create the structure that allows freedom to flourish. Think about it. Q, the dancer, has the freedom to move beautifully precisely because she has disciplined her body through years of practice. The writer can express freely because she has disciplined herself to write every day. Without discipline, freedom collapses into chaos, and chaos is exhausting. For women especially, discipline has another dimensioning. It teaches you to say no to your lower impulses, and in doing so, it teaches you to say yes to the woman you are becoming. This is not just about resisting unhealthy food, procrastination, or gossip. It's about resisting the temptation to live below your own standards. The modern world is constantly tempting you to lower the bar, to settle, to take the easy route, but every easy choice that violates your deeper values comes at a cost. And that cost is self-respect. A woman who learns to guard her standards fiercely, even in small daily acts, becomes a woman who cannot be cheaply bought with attention, flattery, or approval. She knows her worth because she proves it to herself every day in the way she lives. And this kind of self-respect has a ripple effecting. It shapes how you speak, how you walk, how you negotiate, how you choose relationships. Deserves a seat. People treat you differently because you treat yourself differently. And here's the paradox. When you master discipline in the small things, you gain the capacity to handle the big things with grace. A woman who can consistently manage her mornings can manage a crisis. A woman who can maintain order in her home can maintain order in her thoughts under pressure. The small disciplines train the mind and spirit for the larger battles. So, if you take nothing else from this, take this: the first step toward becoming the woman you want to be is to start living as if you are already worth the effort. Don't wait for the world to crown you with respect. Crown yourself with discipline and watch the world respond in kind. Because at the end of the day, self-respect is not given to you. It is built by you, one small, disciplined act at a time. And if you do not master this, nothing else you master will matter. If the first step toward mastering your life is building self-respect through daily discipline, the next is protecting the place where that self-respect is either reinforced or destroyed: your mind. You cannot expect to carry yourself with strength, clarity, and purpose if you allow your mental space to be invaded by anything and everything the world wants to pour into it. In our time, the most valuable resource you possess is not your money, not your looks, not even your time. It is your attention. And every force in modern life is competing to own it. This is why guarding your inner world is not optional. It is essential. You have to understand that the mind works like a garden. Whatever seeds you allow in, whether they're seeds of truth, beauty, courage, or fear, vanity, resentment, will eventually grow into the atmosphere you live in. And unlike a physical garden, you can't just step outside your mind when you don't like it. You are in it all the time. If it's filled with weeds, you will carry that chaos into your relationships, your work, your choices, and even your sense of who you are. The danger is that most of the time, we don't realize we're letting weeds in. Social media, endless news cycles, celebrity gossip, and toxic conversations are all disguised as harmless entertainment or staying informed. But the cost is subtle and severe. You begin to live in reaction to the noise instead of in pursuit of your highest values. And what's worse, your perception of reality becomes shaped by whatever narrative is loudest, not whatever is truest. A woman who does not protect her mind will find herself constantly anxious, constantly comparing, constantly feeling less than, because she is feeding on a steady diet of other people's lives, other people's problems, and other people's opinions. That's not awareness. That's addiction. And like any addiction, it narrows your vision until you can't even hear your own voice clearly anymore. To break this, you have to start treating your attention like you would treat your most intimate space. Not everyone gets access. Not every idea gets in. Not every headline deserves your time. You have to decide what earns the right to enter your mind. That means setting boundaries, not just with people, but with content, with conversations, with environments. Because here's the reality: your mind is not a public park. It's a private sanctuary. And if you don't guard it, someone else will fill it for you, usually with something that serves their agenda, not yours. There's also a deeper layer here. The more junk you allow into your mental space, the harder it becomes to focus on the good, the beautiful, and the true. Your creativity suffers, your intuition dulls. Your ability to see opportunities becomes clouded because your attention is scattered across 1,000 meaningless things. Protecting your inner world isn't about hiding from reality. It's about strengthening your mind so you can actually engage with reality more powerfully. A woman who curates her mental diet the way she curates her physical diet becomes a force to be reckoned with. She's not swayed by every opinion, she's not rattled by every crisis, and she's not living in a constant state of comparison. She has clarity, and clarity is magnetic. It draws the right people and opportunities toward you because you are operating from a place of centeredness rather than chaos. But make no mistake, this is a daily habit. You don't protect your inner world once and call it done. Every day, you will be tempted to give your attention to the loudest voice in the room. Every day, you will be invited into conversations and distractions that dilute your energy. And every day, you will have to choose again, is this worthy of my mind? It's not about building walls around yourself. It's about building gates. Gates that you open deliberately with discernment. Gates that let in the life-giving and keep out the life-draining. This is how you ensure that your inner world remains a place where strength, peace, and vision can grow. Because at the end of the day, the battles you fight out there are won or lost in here, in your mind. If you don't master what you let in, it will master you. And if you lose that battle, every other victory will be hollow. Everything deserves it. If you've built self-respect through discipline, and if you've learned to protect the sanctuary of your inner world. The next challenge is learning how to carry yourself when life doesn't go according to plan. Because it's one thing to be poised and confident when everything is calm. It's another thing entirely to remain composed when the ground shifts under your feet. This is where grace under pressure becomes one of the most valuable habits a woman can master. We often think of grace as softness, as gentleness, as something delicate. But true grace, the kind that lasts, is anything but fragile. It's a steel spine wrapped in velvet. It's the quiet strength that allows you to stand tall without becoming hard, to speak with clarity without becoming harsh, and to face uncertainty without collapsing into fear. The truth is, life will test you. Not once, but repeatedly. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will blindside you, and situations will arise that threaten to pull you out of your center. In those moments, most people either explode or shut down. They react impulsively, say things they later regret, or retreat into silence and resentment. But a woman who has cultivated grace under pressure does something different. She pauses, she breathes, she remembers that her emotional state is her responsibility, and she chooses her response rather than letting the situation choose it for her. This is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending to be unaffected. It's about holding yourself steady enough to respond with intention rather than impulse. Think of it like sailing a ship through a storm. The waves may be violent, but if the captain loses composure, the ship is lost. Your composure is the rudder that keeps you from being carried wherever the storm wants you to go. The discipline of grace also has a ripple effect. When you remain calm, you create stability for others. People naturally look to those who can maintain perspective under pressure. In a workplace crisis, in a heated family conflict, even in a simple disagreement with a partner, your ability to stay centered becomes a source of influence. This is one of the reasons grace under pressure is a form of power. It earns you respect without demanding it. And make no mistake, this isn't a skill you develop only when the big crises come. You practice it in small, everyday situations. When traffic is slow, when someone is rude to you, when your plans are disrupted, these are opportunities to train your mind and body to stay composed. Every time you resist the pull toward irritation or panic, you strengthen that inner muscle, and when the real storms come, you'll be ready. There's also a psychological dimension to this. When you maintain grace under pressure, you are sending yourself a powerful message. I can handle this. That self-assurance builds resilience. It tells your subconscious mind that you are not a victim of circumstance. You are a participant in your own life, even in difficult seasons. This mindset not only helps you navigate challenges, it also changes the way you remember them. Instead of looking back on hardships with shame or regret over how you handled yourself, you can look back with pride knowing you stood firm. But perhaps the most profound aspect of grace under pressure is that it allows you to act in alignment with your values. Even deserves a fire. When you're under fire, anyone can be kind when they're comfortable. Anyone can be patient when everything's going smoothly. But to be kind when you've been wronged, to be patient when you're provoked, that's a sign of true mastery. That's the kind of grace that transforms relationships, careers, and lives. Of course, this doesn't mean tolerating abuse or injustice. Grace under pressure doesn't mean silence in the face of wrongdoing. It means speaking truth without letting anger poison it. It means setting boundaries without bitterness. It means refusing to let someone else's chaos become your chaos. And here's the paradox: the more you practice grace under pressure, the more powerful you become. Not because you dominate others, but because you cannot be easily moved. The storms will still come. The people around you may still falter. But you will remain steady, and in a world where most people are quick to break, that steadiness will set you apart. So remember this: storms reveal what's built to last. And if you cultivate grace under pressure, you will not only survive the storms, you will rise above them, untouchable in your dignity and unshakable in your strength. If you've mastered self-respect through discipline, protected the sanctuary of your inner world, and cultivated grace under pressure, deserves a seat. The final layer that holds all of this together is where you choose to direct your growth. Because here's a sobering truth: many women spend their best years investing their time, energy, and emotional bandwidth into things that have no lasting return. They chase external approval, temporary validation, and fleeting trends, all while neglecting the one investment that compounds for a lifetime in themselves. The temptation to live for approval is powerful because it feels like a form of security. Every deserves a seat. When people like you, when they admire you, when they praise you, it can feel like you've arrived. But there's a danger in building your self-worth on applause. Because applause is conditional. It fades the moment you stop performing in a way that pleases the crowd. And the crowd's standards are always shifting. One day they cheer for you, the next they move on to someone else. If your sense of value is tied to this cycle, you will live in a constant state of chasing. Chasing attention, chasing affirmation, chasing relevance. And the more you chase, the more you lose sight of the woman you're supposed to be becoming. That's why one of the most important habits you can master is the discipline of investing in lifelong growth. Not because it will earn you approval, but because it will make you into someone you respect regardless of who's watching. Growth looks different for every woman, but the principle is the same every single day. You pour something into yourself that makes you wiser, stronger, more capable. That could mean reading a book that challenges your perspective, learning a skill that increases your independence, developing a craft that allows you to create value in the world, or deepening your understanding of yourself so you can navigate life with greater clarity. These are the kinds of investments that cannot be taken from you. And this is where discipline, mental protection, and grace all converge. Without discipline, you won't show up consistently to do the work of growth. Without protecting your mind, you'll be too distracted to focus on it. Without grace under pressure, you'll abandon your growth the moment life gets hard. That's why this habit sits at the end. It's the crown that rests on the foundation you've already built. There's another reason lifelong growth matters so much. It keeps you from becoming stagnant. And stagnation is dangerous because the moment you stop growing, you start shrinking. Your confidence weakens, your curiosity fades, and you start settling for a smaller version of yourself than you were meant to be. The world doesn't just need you to stay alive. It needs you to stay alive inside. And that means feeding your mind and spirit with things that stretch you. Here's the paradox: the more you invest in your own growth, the less desperate you become for other people's approval. Not because you stop caring about relationships or connection, but because you no longer need them to prop up your identity. Deserves a seat. When you're building skills, knowledge, and strength, you know you can stand on your own. You stop bending yourself into shapes that please others and start walking in the shape you were designed to take. That's magnetic. That's when people notice you, not because you're asking them to, but because they can't help it. And let's be honest, this takes courage. It's easier to scroll, to go sip, to consume whatever's trending, to do what's comfortable. Growth requires you to step into the unknown, to be a beginner again, to risk failure. But the woman who's willing to risk discomfort for the sake of her future will always outgrow the woman who clings to comfort for the sake of the present. So the challenge is this: stop living for the quick hit of external validation and start playing the long game. Build yourself into a woman whose value doesn't expire when trends shift, whose wisdom deepens with age, and whose presence is felt because she carries the weight of someone who has invested in herself relentlessly. At the end of the day, you have deserves a seat. You have to decide whether you want to be remembered for how well you fit into the moment or for how powerfully you stood the test of time. And that decision will be made not in some grand public moment, but in the quiet daily choice to grow, no matter who's watching. Because the woman who grows every day becomes unshakable. Not because the world gave her strength, but because she gave it to herself. And that kind of strength is not just attractive, it's unstoppable.